There may only be a few days left to school, but it's really going to be hot next week, and that goes for inside of classrooms.
So East Syracuse Minoa has changed up the schedule a little bit on account of the heat. Joining us live in studio is ESM Superintendent Dr. Donna Desiato. It's always great to see you. We love having you here in studio with us.
Thank you. Love to be here.
So I know you have had plenty of practice dealing in the winter with those delays and canceling snow days, things like that. The heat, though, how are you adjusting the schedule here for next week as we're looking at record highs? It's going to be a heat wave.
Yeah, first, I think it's important to note that in the winter, we're really focused on the safety of getting children and our students to and from school. Can we get you to school? Can we get you home from school? And can we do that safely? In extreme heat conditions, we know we can get you to school, but what will be the conditions with regard to the heat in our buildings, because they are brick. Most do not have air conditioning, and some do have some, but not enough for the capacity of that size of a building and the population. So we will be in full Regents mode at the high school, and fortunately that is where we have the most of our air conditioning. Not all, but we have enough air-conditioned space that students will take their Regents in air-conditioned spaces in classrooms. At our elementary, our pre-K, and our middle school, those buildings we will now adjust to being a shortened day. And the reason for that is, with temperatures above the 90s for multiple days, it is very difficult once those temperatures in those classrooms reach a certain degree to get them in any way to cool down. We try to cool them down during the evening for the next morning, but again, we're up against multiple days of extreme heat.
Right, a shortened day, but I know you have a multifaceted plan. So what other strategies do you have in place for the kids and the teachers?
Definitely. We start actually when we see the temperatures approaching the 80-degree mark to send out a list of strategies that we're using on a regular basis in late May, and certainly through these past few weeks of certainly hydration stations, making sure everyone stays hydrated, asking parents to dress children and have students dress in light clothing, lowering the shades, dimming the lights, powering down electronic equipment. We do, in those spaces where we do have air conditioning, we trade off classes during different parts of the day. We monitor all indoor and outdoor activities so that we are watching those extreme or those temperatures and not going into exhaustion or having the heat. You know, the concern in the medical profession is that students, when they are overheated, will not only be distracted, but it does impact their health and their wellness. So that's really what we're concerned about.
How many times roughly would you say you've had to make these kinds of alternative plans because of the heat?
We actually, for the first time, did it last year. Very similar. It was a Monday, a Tuesday, and then we had Juneteenth on a Wednesday, and we had to actually administer it on a Thursday as well. We already had a shortened day at the end of the week. But I think it's important also to note that we go to school later in June now than we ever have before. So there's other agendas that are moving all of this, and when people need to think about, we have increased whether federal or state holidays, they've added to the calendar. The Regents exams actually set the date for the last day of school. So we are governed by the fact that we have to be in school until a certain date in order to administer those Regents exams. So all of that, you know, in years past, if you looked, we were out by June 20, we wouldn't even be in school next week. But that's no longer the case.
You're pushing July now.
Right. Last year was the first time we had to do it, and now this year, and again, it's when the temperatures rise above the 90s.
Right, and there's the new law.
For multiple days.
The new law for maximum temperature inside classrooms. So when does that kick in?
September 1, the law is actually at 88 degrees. We have to have alternate plans for where students will be. Now, it doesn't mean that every time that it hits 88 that we'll be dismissing school, but it does mean that we have to have strategies in place so that we're able to really mediate or to be able to address those high temperatures. 82 degrees, we'll have to do all of the other activities or strategies I mentioned earlier. But when the law goes into effect September 1, it's when we hit 88 degrees, we have to have alternative measures or placements for students with those temperatures in our buildings.
One quick one before we go out, and actually, Christy, I'm gonna steal your question from our editorial meeting. Who determines that? Do you walk around with a little heat gun? Like who, I mean, who does that?
No, it actually is also in the law, so we have to measure it, and our custodians are prepared to. It actually has to be measured 3 feet above the ground from the center of every room.
It's that specific.
It's that specific.
Oh, wow.
So we don't ask people to bring in their own thermometers, you know. But I also want to add that, you know, thanks to our community, and I'm sure many of the communities, we have been adding air-conditioned spaces as we renovate buildings. We're just not completely there yet. But we're also up against another competing agenda. We're told we have a mandate for electric buses, but we need electricity to air condition our schools. So again, you know, in our world, as superintendents, we're constantly competing with various agendas. One law comes into place, and people don't realize how it impacts everything else that we may be doing.
Generally, those agendas don't come with funding, but that's another discussion. We're going to have to leave it here for now. Donna, as always, thanks so much for being in here, and best of luck with everything and commencement coming up next week as well.
Thanks. Stay cool.
Good times,